Okay.
All right, welcome back, everyone, to the Project Gen X podcast. I am one of your hosts, Alan Smith, along with...
I'm the clueless guy, Big Dave.
Well, I don't think you're going to have any problems.
Because
I have not told you anything because, honestly, right before I hit record was whenever I was like, hey, I got an idea. Because we kind of been sitting here, like, just kind of shooting the bull for a few minutes trying to figure out what we're going to do. But
yeah,
because of the conversation we were having off mic, I'm like, I know what we're going to talk about.
Oh, boy.
We're going to talk about conspiracy theories.
Break out the tinfoil,
because this is going to be fun. Because there are two communities like you can find on the internet. Okay,
yeah,
that I absolutely love and adore. But I think they're all batshit insane, okay? I'll just say that. I'm not going to even be nice about it. Okay. One of them is the conspiracy theory community. Yeah. I love conspiracy theories. Don't believe any of them. But I'm just like, all right, this is,
Sure. Sure.
And the other one is Sasquatch. Now, I will say this about Sasquatch. And the two... Bigfoot, whatever. The two of them, let's see. Here's the thing. Bigfoot is an actual particular Sasquatch.
Generally out west.
No. It was a one Sasquatch. Okay. That's what they called because they kept finding. We'll get into that in a minute.
Oh, so boy. Here we go.
And really, this is one of those things where, like, I know way too much about this, especially considering that I don't even really believe in them. Okay. I just find it fascinating. Now, that comes from... We'll start there. Okay.
But I tell you right now, Larry, who lives 2 doors down from me, have I not introduced you to my Sasquatch? Mm-mm. No, he lives in my neighborhood.
Okay, Larry the Sasquatch. Here's the thing with Sasquatch. If tomorrow we wake up and someone has captured one... a Sasquatch or a Yeti or a Yowie or any number, whatever the skunk get. Well, whatever it is. It's a version of it, whatever it is, and like, come to find out, it's some primate that we've not found prior to this. Okay, I'm fine. Doesn't surprise me in the slightest. Now, if I wake up tomorrow and come to find out that it's some kind of actual mythical beast, it's the Nephilim or whatever it is that so many people try to, or it's linked to UFO. These theories in this community gets way out there.
You've actually delved.
I have gone way into this, dude. You have no idea.
Nephilim, really?
Nephilim. Some people believe it's the Nephilim.
That's a term that I haven't heard in a very, very long time.
So, and we'll get into that here in a minute. But it's one of those things that if it turns out to be any of that stuff, I'm going to be shocked as shit. Okay, because it's like, you tell me it's a primate we haven't found prior to this. Okay. You tell me it's actually some kind of supernatural being or whatever, I would have never seen that one coming. Okay.
Even with the ghost that lives in your house.
Exactly. And same thing. We've talked about that many times. I grew up and live in a haunted house.
Yes.
Straight up. Dave can confirm it. Many people who have come into my house can confirm it, and I still don't believe in ghosts.
Yeah.
We'll be the first one to say, yeah, I live in a haunted house. So you believe in ghosts? No. Well, then why do you say it's a haunted house? Because I've had some weird stuff happen over the years that I can't explain, but that's all I can say is I just can't explain it. That's what it comes down to.
It hasn't just happened to you.
It's happened, I know.
It's happened to multiple people, some of which who claim to be staunch non-ghost believers.
I know. And so it's like...
And they can't get out of your house fast enough. It's kind of funny to watch.
So, yeah, I mean, it's just kind of one of those things that I am a very pragmatic person when it comes to that kind of stuff, of where I'm like, okay, look, this is something I can't explain. Just because I can't explain it doesn't mean that there's not an explanation. It just means that I can't explain it. So
okay, so you're a cold hard facts kind of guy.
Kind of.
Gotta feel it, smell it, see it.
Yeah, it's gotta. The ghost has to walk up to me and walk through me and on to whatever, and then even then I'm like, somebody spiked my lemonade that I was drinking or something. This is like that's just me though. I mean, it's that. Okay. That's
all right, so tell me, when did your love of Bigfoot and Sasquatch and
this started
all
when I was a
cryptid?
kid. This started when I was a kid. Okay. watching shows like the original Ripley's Believe It or Not,
Yes.
Jack Palance,
I remember that.
Used to scare the crap out of me every time.
I remember when I finally got to go through my first Ripley's Museum.
Oh, dude, I know.
The one over in Gatlinburg?
Yes, and the thing is,
wow.
that thing never changes, and I've been through it probably a dozen times, and it's awesome every time. I'm just like, no, I love this. I've talked about it as I love all that circus sideshow stuff, and all the P.T. Barnum, there's a sucker born every minute.
The federal government proves that every day.
Well, exactly. But all that stuff, I love that stuff. There's something about that Americana, that part of Americana that I absolutely love for whatever reason. I know it's not what they called the circus freaks and all that kind of stuff. I love all of that stuff.
Oh yeah.
And so it's one of those things of watching and
some of the nicest people you'll ever meet.
Oh yeah, I know. It's I
very cool.
Would love to go to that town in Florida where.
Yeah, but you don't go. That's where they go to retire and to live.
Well,
you don't
and they
go
live
down
in the
there.
off season. I know. It's I don't want to be like, oh, look at the. It's just like no. It's just kind of cool, I think it's cool that there is a place like that.
Yeah.
Now also the fact that we're getting already off the rails. It won't be long before. Like, my kid will probably never know what a circus is.
No.
Because, Ringling Brothers stopped several years ago. They're not touring any longer. Just different, and I understand why. One thing, their popularity has really, fallen off over the years. There's also the animal rights thing that comes into that. Legitimately, not just, some crazy PETA stuff. Yeah, I said it. But, legit, there have been some issues.
You mean the group people eating tasty animals?
Did you see that what I sent you the other day about the Oklahoma? Did you hear about that?
No.
This is beautiful.
Or was it Texas?
No, it's Oklahoma.
Okay.
Oklahoma's governor, PETA, put up a sign on the side of one of their major interstates or whatever.
Yeah.
Basically calling him out because he's a hunter, and all, and he, that kind of stuff. Basically saying that he's a murderer for killing animals and eating them and blah 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 blah. So he had a barbecue next to the sign.
Okay, I could go hang out with him. That's hysterical.
Yeah, it's. I'm just like, okay,
remember,
that's.
Remember Wild Game? It's the original organic meat.
I know, exactly. So, anyway, but with all of that stuff, like I said, watching that Ripley's Believe It or Not, In Search Of, whenever I discovered that, there was also I don't know if you remember or not. Of course, we all saw the Patterson-Gimlin film.
Yes.
They call her Patty. That walked that hole in Northern California.
Yeah.
Just as a little kid, it grabbed my attention. Like I was back then, I really kind of believed, like, no, look, there's this, there's these footprints, there's this.
Yeah.
I read all kinds of books. I would go to our school library and you would find they would have like this scattering of stuff, and I would like that and Loch Ness Monster and and all that kind of stuff. So I was really into all that when I was a kid.
We grew up the same then.
Exactly.
Because I would go to the library and I'd be like, "What are your ghost stories?" And she would take me over to the fiction stuff. I'm like, no,
right.
I want the real stuff.
Of course, we also grew up in the era of the Time Life books.
Yes.
And there was the Mysteries of the Unknown and all the different stuff.
One of the books I saw in the estate sale my mom's having was Mysteries of the Unknown.
Yeah, I know. That exactly is that kind of stuff. And I'm like, no, we grew up with all that stuff.
Yeah.
And
Coast to Coast AM.
Yeah, I didn't really get into that till I was in probably my 20s. Or actually, it was in my late teens.
I discovered it in junior high,
and so all that stuff was really fun. And there was a whole bunch of other, but those were kind of the foundations of it. And so it was one of those things that I didn't, I did, like, me and my cousin talked about, when we get older, we're gonna go hunt Bigfoot. Not hunt, we're gonna go search for it.
Yeah,
and all that stuff. But it's kind of one of those things, kind of like, I also wanted to be a professional wrestler when I was a kid, and I wanted to be a truck driver, and I wanted to be a fireman, and I wanted to be a whole bunch of stuff.
Hold on. There's a lot to unpack right there, because truck driver, yeah, I can see that. And,
right.
And I'll admit at one point, yeah. because
of BJ and the Bear. I mean, that's
well, there was BJ and the Bear, there was Smokey and the Bandit, there was Convoy.
Right.
I mean,
there's a whole bunch of that stuff.
Semi trucks and CB
radios,
were huge
Right.
growing up.
Right.
In fact, I've still got a box of CBs in my garage that I may break out and start playing with again at some point.
May not. Yeah, we had a CB radio in Dad's truck at one point, But yeah, so it was one of those. Yes, I wanted to be a truck driver. Yes, I wanted to be a professional wrestler when I was 12. And that kind of. I wanted to be.
Well, that could have actually happened to you because you're kind of in the middle of a training ground here in Nashville.
Well, you had Memphis, you had the Mid-South, which was out of Memphis, USWA, which was in Memphis. You had Mid-South, which was actually like in Louisiana, across like through.
What was
Louisiana,
the one that was out at the fairgrounds?
That was USWA.
Okay,
that's what that was. That was the same Memphis. And of course, there was also in Georgia you had which became WCW later, but it was the Georgia Championship Wrestling. Which is associated with the NWA, which is National Wrestling Alliance, and then they became WCW eventually.
Yeah.
And there was one. And there was also in the NWA had an outpost in Charlotte, North Carolina. I mean, it was one of those things that in this area there was plenty of.
Well, I mean, like the Jarretts were here, and
I used to see Jeff Jarrett at the gym I went to, and types of.
I went to church with Jeff there for a while.
Yeah. So the Jarretts were here. You had. Bill Dundee, superstar Bill Dundee lived here. Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert lived around here before he passed away. You had a bunch of that stuff. So it was like, here's the thing that held me back from being a professional wrestler.
You're too short.
I'm too short. It has a lot to do with it because, especially at that time, it was a big man's.
Oh yeah.
I mean and I'm. At my height, my tallest I've ever been is 5'8". Okay, now I get it. There are some guys, like Daniel Bryan now is my height.
Yeah.
Kevin Sullivan is the same. There's several of those guys.
How tall was Rey Mysterio?
Oh no, he's like 5'5". He's a little dude. But he also comes from that lucha.
Yeah,
we're way off the rails already on this.
Well, I mean, you're.
I love professional wrestling, so it's and again, professional wrestling is one of those things that I did not get back into it until a few years ago, but it fell into that same, and it also gets into that circus and carny type thing with wrestling of I love all the stuff around wrestling.
Yeah,
but I just didn't really care much for the product for a long time. But I loved everything else about it, and the history and the the kayfabe and all that kind of stuff, and so it was like, all right, this is kind of cool, all the backstage stuff, and so
Well, I mean, you threw out truck driver, you threw out professional wrestling, you threw out firefighter
because every kid wants to be a firefighter, and so and I don't know what else did I want to be when I was a kid. I don't even remember.
So, okay, back to Bigfoot.
But so I wanted to, me and my cousin John were going to go off into the woods and, hunt for Bigfoot.
Become cryptozoologist.
Yeah. So glad we didn't. But it's, it's one of those things that, again, as I got older, I kind of got away from it. But it was really when all of the Bigfoot craze came back around about 10 years ago. Finding Bigfoot and, all that kind of stuff. Monster Quest that was on, that was really, I was like, oh, okay, yeah. And I kind of got back into it. I started listening to some podcasts, and I still listen to one Sasquatch podcast.
Because, do you really?
Yeah, I do. I'll tell you what, you want to know, the thing is that a lot of the stories are really out there. Because you
listen to it, so go ahead and name it.
It's Sasquatch Chronicles.
Okay.
I listened to a couple of supernatural podcasts.
And we're not talking about the TV show, folks.
No. I listened to that one. I also listened to Monsters Among Us is another one, which I really... And both of these are people call in and tell their stories, and that kind of stuff.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
And then I also listened to another one that's called... of course, I can't remember off the top of my head, and I should be able to. Now, it's Astonishing Legends. And it's one of those things that all three of them are really cool because sometimes they have crossed over. You'll hear people, here and there and that kind of stuff, and it's really kind of cool. Or they'll mention other people around.
Yeah, yeah.
And the thing is that all of them I enjoy listening to for what they are. And then I also listen to another one that's actually a skeptics podcast. It's called I cannot believe that. Like I can't remember the.
I don't know how you listen to all of these podcasts.
Monster Talk is the name of it.
I only have like 2 or 3 I listen to, and I have trouble keeping up with all of them.
And Monster Talk is it used to actually be in with the Skeptic Society, but they broke away a couple of years ago. Just kind of went off their own, and it's kind of cool because like. They have a tendency to look at all of this stuff, you know, like cryptids and ghosts and all that kind of stuff, and kind of look at it more from a scientific point of view of like, okay, and they'll have people who like, you know, that they interview that like have written books about it and that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
and a lot of them, you know, and they're not always like, oh, this is all crap. It's like no, it's like you can tell that that Blake, the guy that's like the main host of Blake, and then. Karen is his co-host. They love the material,
sure,
but they also are skeptical about. They're not just taking it at face value. You know, it's kind of like, okay, let's look at it.
Show us the receipts,
exactly. You know, type stuff. Now the thing is that with like Monsters Among Us and Sasquatch Chronicles, those two especially because they come out like, you know, weekly. Astonishing Legends comes out like every other week or something like that, and they'll usually do like a 3-part episode about something, or three episodes about these things, and they'll be like 2 or 3 hours long each, you know, type.
So they're
stuff.
really
they really get into it, right?
Research into it.
But the thing with the other two, because they're people calling in with their experiences and telling us kind of stuff. Do you know why I listen to those? Besides the fact that I find them interesting, that is my. I'm laying in bed at night with the lights off, with the headphones in, listening to them because. I like that. I like that. There's something there. It's one of those things. I don't find it scary.
It's sitting around the campfire telling ghost stories.
Exactly. And they're like, you know, and it's one of those things that, like, especially with those two, it's like, no. I'm not going to listen to these unless I'm laying in bed and the lights are out.
Right.
And, you know, and it's not like, oh, this is sleep material. It's like, no. I hear all of it, you know, type stuff.
That was kind of the thing with me when I discovered Coast to Coast AM.
Right.
It was. I'm of course, this is junior high. You know, I'm supposed to be in bed asleep, and I've got my transistor radio with my headphones in. You know, listen to this.
Right.
And when I got older, when I got out of high school, I worked a job. Well, no, starting in high school, I worked a job that was half second shift, half third shift. I had the whole building to myself. And out in the big shop where I was cleaning up, they had a big stereo. And
so you would turn it on.
So I would turn it on and have this great big empty, you know, warehouse, where I can listen to Coast AM by myself. And it would get creepy. I'm not going to lie.
I had a job a couple of years ago where I was working in a warehouse. Yeah, and I would go in a lot of times like after hours. You know, like on the weekend, like we were closed on the weekends. I would go in on like a Sunday night or a Saturday or, you know, Sunday night or something like that. I'd be the only one in the place.
Yeah.
And I would have my headphones in listening to that stuff, you know, and it's just like, all right, you know.
Now, this place also happened to be in a rough neighborhood, and I would occasionally get broken in.
Same here.
I would occasionally have people break in on me.
I didn't have that experience.
I would have to have, you know, I'd have to call the cops. And,
right.
Yeah.
But where I was working was not in the best neighborhood either. Yeah. So it was like, anyway, so so it's one of those things that, again, I don't take the stuff at face value. Especially with the Sasquatch stuff, you know, it's one of those things, again, like I said, woke up tomorrow and they had captured one or whatever, and it's like, okay, it's a primate, you know, but here's when we get into the conspiracy theories.
Yeah, this ought to be good because it has been a very long time since I've heard anybody mention a Nephilim.
Okay, the Nephilim, if you're not aware, the Nephilim is actually from Genesis. No, it's not from Genesis, but it is from the Old Testament. Yeah. I think it's either mentioned in Job. It's mentioned in Job is what it is. Basically what the Nephilim is, and we're going to get into a little bit of theology. So there's a war that rages in heaven. Okay, Satan, or Lucifer, we don't say Satan, we're going to say Lucifer because that was his given name. Lucifer decides that he's smarter than God. He wants to overthrow, he should be running things. So he, you know, gets his army together, they go to fight, and everything happens, okay? So Lucifer gets kicked out of heaven with his angels, and, you know, he's given dominion over the earth and all that kind of stuff. So in the early days of the Bible, there were
Or you had the seraphim and the
well,
Nephilim.
you had that. Well, no. The Nephilim is something different. I think you're thinking you had the seraphim, and then you had the what were they called? Anyways, the Nephilim are the giants that are mentioned in Genesis. And do you know where the giants came from?
I'm listening.
Okay, no. There's again mentioned in Genesis. Basically, what it was is it where the angels, the Watchers, what they were called. They were actually called the Watchers that were sent to to watch over man and the earth and make sure things didn't get too out of control or whatever. Fell in love with human women, and they had children together, which were these giant monsters. They weren't just giants; they were like these monstrous giants that came from the union of the two. And supposedly, I know you're like getting your okay. Well, this is what I think. Because
I'm going to have to go back and do some reading to double check you on a bunch of stuff here.
But it's one of those things where, supposedly, one of the big reasons for the flood was to wipe out the Nephilim because they were so strong.
Okay.
Supposedly. Now that's, again, we're getting into like some Christian mythology there more than even theology, because it's one of those things where it's like, okay. But there are some people in the Bigfoot community who believe that Sasquatch is the Nephilim. It's the descendants of the Nephilim.
Okay, but if you're saying they're giant monsters, Bigfoot's big, but it's not a giant.
Not like 20 foot tall or anything. But, that's the whole thing. Like, again, you go back to the Philistines, that were supposed to be giants in the land of Canaan. Whenever, I know we're getting to a lot of theology here. whenever Joshua brought, it wasn't Moses, whenever Joshua brought the children of Israel into the Canaan land, and they had to go in and they fought the Battle of Jericho and all that kind of stuff. When they came up against the Philistines, they were giants, and Goliath was supposed to be the biggest of all of them, and he stood about 9 foot tall, is what they going by the cubits or whatever it is that they used, and people have kind of, this is what a cubit was, and blah 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 blah. Supposedly. Again, I'm doing a lot of this from memory here. So it's been a long time since I've studied, been to Sunday school or vacation Bible school or any of that stuff. So, but I'm remembering a lot of this. So, and supposedly the Philistines were some kind of descendant from this also. Supposedly, I don't know.
So the Philistines were descendants from the Nephilim?
Supposedly.
Okay.
But
I don't remember any of that. Okay.
Supposedly. Well, let's put it this way. I have heard this in the past. How accurate it is, I have no clue. I'm sure that it's somebody decided that they were and said it, and that was it. You said
conspiracy theories.
We're getting to conspiracies here, okay? Hey, dude, you want to know what my favorite biblical conspiracy theory is?
Sure. What is it?
Is that the very first verse of Genesis, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. Okay, Genesis 1:2 is, and the earth was void without form.
Yeah.
I have heard people say that in the beginning God created the heaven and the earth, and the earth was void and without form, that millennia passed between those two passages.
Okay.
There's nothing to, but I know people who will fight you to say no. See, God created heaven and the earth, and then the war that raged in heaven destroyed all this stuff, and so the earth was void without form and it had to be recreated again.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. I said we're getting a conspiracy theory here, okay? I don't, this is...
Okay. So Bigfoot.
So Bigfoot. We're gonna go so far out and everything here.
I'm
back
just
to all
enjoying
this
the
stuff.
ride.
You didn't realize I was so full of this, did you? I know you was full of it, but I'm talking about this particular thing. Okay.
Had to cut me off at the pass on that one.
I saw that
you?
one coming. Hey, I admit. One of my favorite quotes about that was from you remember Harry Anderson? Mm-hmm. Okay, he wrote a book back in the 80s, because he was a magician, and all that kind of stuff. And
for those of you who don't know who Harry Anderson is, go back and look up a little show called Night Court.
Yep. He also played Harry the Hat on Cheers for a couple of seasons, kind of stuff. And that was the whole thing. He was always pulling some kind of con, on the guys in the bar and everything. But that's the whole. What was the name of his book? I can't remember. I remember here's another one. When I was about 11, 12, 13 years old, something like that, I also wanted to be a professional magician. So I used to do, and that's another one of those things that.
Wait, you had magic kits and tried to do magic?
I had more than just magic kits. I had some serious stuff. I was really into it.
Really?
So, yeah.
Okay.
I'm
a geek. I was never that big of a geek.
I love that stuff. And that's another one that goes in with the carnies and the circuses and and all that kind of stuff, and the wrestling, and it's all under that same umbrella of the, so again, and here's the funny thing about that. Now, and it's been this way for a long time.
Yeah.
I hate magicians. Okay?
You're just jealous that you can pull it off as well.
There's something about magicians that just rub me the wrong way. Okay?
That's it. We're going to House of Cards. I am going to get us tickets, and we're going to go do dinner at House of Cards, Nashville.
Pretty sure I know one of those guys.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure. I think he works there. I can't remember if he works there or somewhere else, or if he left town. I can't remember. But I'm almost positive that I know one of those dudes. I've known him since college. So
we need to get him on the show then.
We might be able to.
And I'll explain to him that you were talking crap about magicians.
No, and he knows because we had this discussion way back in the day. It's nothing like. Okay, I was at. We're going so far off the barrels here.
You're doing it to yourself.
Years ago, I was
okay. I might be
at a
helping
bar.
a little.
I was at a bar. Okay, and I've told this story to several people. And it's one of those things that I was watching this guy hit on a girl, and he was doing magic tricks.
So you ran into Howard Wolowitz.
Yeah, yes. In a lot of ways, it was kind of that thing, and I was just like, "You got to be kidding me," type stuff. I can watch people and tell you whether or not they have done magic in their life.
Okay.
It's the way that they use their hands.
Oh, all the big flourishes and
the very. I mean, they're very expressive with their hands, and even just some of the certain motions that they do and stuff. I'm like, they've done sleight of hand and stuff at some point, or still are, type thing. Anyway, that's a whole other, But so, where was I?
Bigfoot.
But why did I get on the magic thing? Because that was a point to that. I don't even remember what it was. Anyway, so yeah, I was a geek growing up, and so you go back and you look at all the stuff that I was into, professional wrestling and magic and whatever, comic books, and
I grew up watching David Copperfield.
Yeah, exactly. Copperfield used to have a special every year.
Yeah,
and I was like, oh, this is kind of cool.
Yeah,
it got ridiculous after a while, but it was But there were other people that I enjoyed. I'll tell you somebody who was great, and he's no longer with us. Was Ricky Jay. Ricky Jay was amazing.
I don't know the name.
Ricky Jay was an actor. You've seen him in stuff. He's been in a lot of stuff. If I show you, were like, oh yeah, that dude.
Sure.
But he was very much his big thing was card throwing. I can still throw cards like you wouldn't believe.
Really?
And I'm talking I can't throw them like I used to, but Ricky Jay would do these theater shows.
Yeah.
And a matter of fact, he wrote a book called Learned Pigs and Fireproof Women that was about magic, the history of it, as well as that kind of stuff, and also went into a lot of the circus, the carnival, the carny stuff, and all that. But he had after that book was released, he had a show that was on. It was a special. It was an hour long when Copperfield was doing his, and forget who else that did all that kind of stuff. But it was one of those things that, like, I remember seeing him there in that hour long special, and he was doing a theater show, and he was taking just regular playing cards. They're not gimmicked cards by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah.
Was taking regular playing cards and throwing them into the balcony.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, and that is a long, like, the best I could do is get it across like a big, like my den. You know how big my den is? I could get it across that, and maybe a little more, it start losing its velocity by the time it got to the side. But dude was throwing it like a long way.
So what's the trick in throwing a playing card?
It's all, it's the wrist. Every bit of it's the wrist.
It's all in the wrist?
All in the wrist. It's all in how you hold it. And it's basically what you, and this isn't even like giving him a magic code or anything, because you can, like, anybody can show you how to do this. Basically what it is that you take the card and you want to keep it as level.
Well, yeah.
And it doesn't matter, like, you can have it at any angle or whatever, but it needs to stay as level, like, basically as flat as possible going forward to where, like, the edges. So it's one of those things that when you snap it, when you snap your wrist, it basically starts spinning like a throwing star is what happens.
Okay.
And that has everything to do with
So you're basically trying to treat it like a shuriken.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, it's that kind of stuff where it's just like that, and that's the biggest. It all has to do with the flip of the wrist, though. Like, if you can get that wrist flick,
okay,
it will fly like you wouldn't believe. And you can get some, like, I can make it hurt. Let's put it this way: at the right, like, within a certain distance, I could throw it hard enough to where you would feel it. Okay. I mean, feel it and be like, ow, it can't be just a regular playing card, Okay. Now, it's been a long time since I've done that. I'm sure after this is over, you're going to be like, oh, let's do this. And I'm going to be like, they're going to be like fluttering all over the place and I'm going to look like an idiot. But it was that kind of stuff, that's
sure.
Doing that kind of stuff. I learned how to do that. I learned how to, like, deal cards. I used to be able to deal, like, shuffle cards one-handed and, like, all that kind of stuff. I am so out of practice on all of it, Good rule of thumbs. I know we've gone way off the rails here. Good rule of thumb with all that, though, is, and I think this came from Harry Anderson's book also.
Sure.
Never do card tricks for people you play poker with, and never play poker with someone who does card tricks.
Well, I'm not playing poker with you ever again, then.
I don't ever do card tricks, do I?
Not.
And you've seen how bad my poker can be sometimes, so it's. But yeah, that Penn and Teller, I love Penn and Teller back.
I love Penn and Teller because they show the ridiculousness of magic.
Exactly, and James Randi, Amazing Randy, he just died a few months back. He was 92, 93 years old, something like that. Of course, he also, he went on a huge, and this gets into, debunked like Uri Geller and different people like that, of like, he had the opening, the amazing challenge is what they called it. He's like, I have $1 million that's set aside if you can prove something that you have a supernatural ability.
Yeah.
That you can, then I will give you that $1 million. And no one ever got the $1 million because he was like, all right, I know exactly how you did that. This is,
Well, that's why I like Get Penn and Teller show Fool Us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And those guys are just, they're so good. It's like they are, and again, they had a great book. I had it again back in the 80s. It was called, and you can't get it any longer. It was called Cruel Tricks for Dear Friends. And it was one of those things where they were showing you some stuff, but a lot of it, there was a lot of, like, hustles in there. Harry Anderson's book was all about hustles. I mean, it was all about, this is how you can win, bar bets. This is how you can do it. I mean, just like a whole bunch of stuff. Like, taught you about, that's how I learned about, like, Keno and roulette and different stuff like that. He broke all of it down. This is how all this stuff. So I love all that stuff. Okay. I forget why that had anything to do with Bigfoot, but it.
Do we need to stop the tape and go back and listen and figure it out?
No, it's fine. But anyway, so, like, the whole thing, like the conspiracy. Oh, we were talking about biblical conspiracy theories is what we were up to, the Nephilim and everything. So yeah, there's some people who believe that the Nephilim, that Sasquatch is descendant of that. Okay. There are some people who believe that say that if you go and look at concentrated sightings of Sasquatch, you can usually find UFO sightings within the same vicinity around the same time.
Okay.
And there's also this whole phenomenon of people seeing Sasquatch. I keep saying Sasquatch because, like I said, Bigfoot, that term Bigfoot originated in the Pacific Northwest at a logging camp in like the 1950s or something like that.
Yeah, because he's got a Bigfoot.
Exactly. That they kept calling him Bigfoot because they were finding these footprints around their equipment and everything, you know, and it's like, and whether or not they were real is highly, because there's that one dude, because there is the one dude who said, dude, he was like, I went all over California with these feet on, you know, and it's like, it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest if that was, you know.
Yeah, sounds like something you would do.
Oh, absolutely. So it's one of those things where you get into all this stuff, and so let's see. So yeah, there's this phenomenon where people claim to see lights, like not UFO, but like lights, like they'll be in the woods and they'll see like these lights like moving through the woods,
foxfire,
something like that, prior to seeing Sasquatch. I mean, there are a whole bunch of this. Now, here's the other one that you may or may not know about. Do you know about the Dogmen? There is the, what is it, the Michigan Dogman that they talk about, you know.
I lived in Michigan for 2 years. I don't think I've heard of this.
So this goes along with the Sasquatch because there are also a lot of reports of what they call the Dogmen, which are basically, they look more of like a werewolf type thing, where it's like a wolf that like stands on its hind legs, you know, and that kind of stuff. Sometimes you see the two cross over, but a lot of times again, this is all conspiracy, this is all theory of territories. Like, you don't see Sasquatch cross over in here because that's Dogman territory and vice versa, you know, kind of everything. That one, you're getting into a whole different, that's again, there's the Michigan Dogman, and then there was the Beast of Bray Road, which I think was in Wisconsin, if I'm not mistaken, which is the same thing. It's this giant wolf that was walking on two legs that, you know, whatever. Who knows? The Patterson-Gimlin film. Excuse me, man. We went to Red Robin beforehand, and now it's like starting to. We went to the Patterson-Gimlin film. Yeah, the most famous artifact when it comes to this stuff. Yeah, we've all seen it. One of the best things I've ever seen about that was in the movie Elf. You know what I'm talking about?
I think so.
At the end of it, whenever he's in Centennial Park and they're looking for him, and they're like, "We have this video that we they're in Central Park, sorry, not Centennial. Centennial's here in Nashville. When he's in Central Park, and they're like, "We just have this raw video that we got, this reported sighting of Buddy the Elf," and he's walking exactly. He does the whole where he turns and looks at the camera, and he's got his arms and everything. That's the Patterson-Gimlin film. Yes, we've all seen it. It's a big source of debate.
Well, yeah, everybody thinks it may be a dude in a monkey suit.
Some people do. Here's the thing. So, Bob Gimlin and Roger Patterson, is that his name? I can't remember Patterson's first name. He died years ago. Yeah. But Patterson was, here's where like it really starts getting sketchy. He was filming a documentary about Sasquatch,
and just happened to catch one on film. Now, the thing with it is that there is another guy named Bob Hieronymus that they say was actually in the suit. He claimed that he was in the suit. Two of the things that is really weird about that particular film, one of them, I bet you had no idea, because I didn't for the longest time, is it's a female. Yeah, I've read that.
And it's one of those things that it wasn't until I saw a really like cleaned up version of the film, like, you know, because because it was actually filmed on film stock,
and I think it was 8mm.
No, it was 16 millimeters.
Was it 16 millimeter?
Because they rented all that equipment, and it was one of those things that...
So they were probably running a handheld Bolex or
something like that.
Okay.
So it's one of those... Yeah, because this was 1968 when this
Definitely
when
a
this
Bolex
happened.
then.
So, and yes, I'm pulling all this out of my memory here.
I mean, your rear end. Pulling it all out of your butt.
Exactly. So it's one of those things that, yes, they were on horseback. If you watch the entire... Not the entire film, because there's a bunch of stuff prior to it that has nothing to do whatsoever, but they were on horses. They were on horseback, okay? And we're going to get into a conspiracy about this. Another conspiracy. This is a conspiracy on top of it. Dude, there are so many conspiracies around this, it's not even funny. So the thing is that Bob Hieronymus is a guy that came out and said he was actually in the suit, okay? One of the things that people have said about this over the years that it couldn't be a man in the suit is the fact that, and you can see it in when you watch the film, is that there's actual like muscle movement. Like you can see like the calf muscle flex and stuff, like whenever she's walking.
Okay.
And also the fact of like who would make a female Bigfoot, because she has breasts. That's the whole. You can. In the cleaned up, like in the HD version of it, because film, back then, or film stock pretty much is HD. The conversion with the way the things were before, it's not like 1080p, but it's high. It's HD enough, to where you can go back, especially if you get on an HD television or something like that, it comes through a lot better.
Okay.
Then it's a whole thing. I know you know a lot more about that than I do, but it's one of those things where you can see the breast. Okay, whenever she turns and looks at the film, there's this weird thing that happens where like the sun glints off of one of her eyes. Bob Hieronymus had a glass eye. And that's why they've said, oh, that's what that is that you see the... but it's still one of those things where it's like people talked about the gait of her walk and that kind of stuff, and how it's like it's not what a human would do, because it's a strange... The way that she walks is really strange. Yeah. It's kind of this little hunched over... It's just weird, the way the whole thing... Now, there's a guy in... I can't remember the guy's name, but there's a guy in North Carolina that claims he's the one that built that was one of his suits. Like he had it, and that he had sent it off. And when he first saw the film back in '68 or whatever, he's like, "Oh yeah, that's my suit." That Of course, he didn't bother to come out and say anything about that for like 30 years or something.
Convenient.
There was also talk that the person who worked on there was a special effects on Planet of the Apes. Created the suit. Nobody knows. One of the things that Bob Hieronymus has said, that the reason why that there's muscle tone is that what they did is that they took football pads and stuffed them in the different places so it looked like there were muscles rather than just like a suit hanging off. So it was tighter, I don't know. There are a bunch of stuff. Okay. Okay. After I said all that, here's the really crazy conspiracy, okay?
This is a deep hole, y'all.
I'm telling you, the really crazy conspiracy is that there are people who said that if you look, because the thing is this was where it was shot in Northern California. It's at Pine Bluff. Was that the name of it? Pine? I can't remember. Anyways, something Bluff. Oh, Cedar Creek. It was Cedar Creek. Okay.
Okay.
Where they shot this, because there is a creek that's running through there.
Yeah.
They say if you look, there's blood in the water, and that this is actually, if you look, there are young Sasquatch hiding out and running as this mother Sasquatch is, Now, this is all like, if you squint and tilt your head just right and hold your tongue and, you can quote unquote see this,
So the family's in the background just kind of hiding in the trees.
It was a slaughter that Gimlin and Patterson and them were actually killing all of this family of Sasquatch that was walking through there. Okay. And this was the only, and that they've been hiding this all these years because they didn't want anybody to know.
Okay, so if they killed a bunch of them, where are the bodies?
Exactly. Some people believe that Bigfoot has a built-in. The reason that you never get like they always talk about these blurry photos of Bigfoot and stuff. The reason that they have those blurry, all the photos come out blurry, or that nobody has a really clear picture of Sasquatch, is because they have a sixth sense of sort that can like distort reality to where you don't actually see them.
So they're multi-dimensional beings.
That is a huge thing that people talk about, them being multidimensional. That the reason why no one has ever caught them or found them is because of the fact that they can just and that they disappear so easily is because they're skipping dimensions.
So they're dimension hopping to get away from people.
Mm-hmm. I can keep going. Here's another good one. Okay, this is a little more. Okay, so I'm sure you've probably heard of
we have extraterrestrial dimension hopping Nephilim walking around in the greater wilds of the U.S. and beyond.
Here's another great conspiracy theory that a lot of people in that community believe. The federal government,
of course,
knows that these creatures exist.
Yeah.
But are hiding them are hiding the fact that they know about this because, there are a bunch of unexplained disappearances in like national forests and, national parks and all that kind of stuff. The federal government knows that it's the Sasquatch that are abducting these people, but they refuse to admit that that's what's going on, and they're covering it up because it would have such a great effect on the camping industry that they can't afford to let anybody know that that's what's going on.
Okay, of all the conspiracy theories that you've talked about tonight, that is the one that I'm closer to believing, simply because the fact that it's the government, and the U.S. government just recently has started acknowledging
about UFOs, right?
UFOs are real.
Yeah.
Now, to remind everybody, UFO stands for unidentified flying object.
It does not mean it's from outer space.
Which could mean that, somebody threw a really big rock and it went across the sky and it was
just unidentified. Yeah. Exactly. That's the whole. Now, you get into the UFO conspiracy theories. Of course, it starts with Roswell.
Well, it goes back further than that, actually.
Well, I know.
This stuff I know a little bit more about because this
you've watched Ancient Aliens, I know.
No, this is stuff that I actually got into more than the cryptozoology.
Well, let's put it this way.
Yes, I have done my stint of Bigfoot, Loch Ness, Mothman, Jersey Devil, that type of stuff.
All of that stuff, yeah.
UFOs, now, I thought, were more interesting.
Again, if tomorrow we wake up and we have definitive proof that there are aliens.
Would surprise me at all.
Not in the slightest, because this is a massive universe that we live in. So why wouldn't there be life on other planets? And maybe they are further advanced than we are technologically, and they decide to come here. Maybe they're doing the same thing that we did with Voyager and all that stuff, and they finally like, oh, hey, this planet, we're going to go check them out and see what's going on.
It's just unfortunate that a bunch of folks got the Eric Cartman treatment.
Exactly. You get into UFOs, and there's what's the guy's name that Joe Rogan loves to have on his Bob Lazar.
Okay, no. No, don't you go bagging on Bob Lazar.
Man, Bob Lazar is so far out there. He is just this side of sane from Alex Jones.
No, hold up, because it's one of those things to where he goes, I know this is happening because I saw this happening, and a decade later, it comes out that this actually happened. I saw this happen because, and I know about this. And 10 years later, this comes out. I'm sorry, Bob Lazar, of all the UFO nuts, and I include myself in that thing. Bob Lazar to me has been the most consistent and credible.
He's been consistent. I'll give him that. It's okay. And I have to have this conversation one of my family members on a regular basis.
You leave Bob Lazar alone.
Of if you get somebody who says enough crazy stuff over a long enough period of time, some of that stuff's going to come true. It just, the law of averages says that. The problem is that people have a tendency for, to only remember the things that came true or kind of came true and forget all of the stuff that didn't. That's how psychics and prophets and
that's
how
what we're
all of them
talking about
work.
here.
Is if you say enough crazy stuff over a long period of time, law of averages says that a few of those few are going to come true.
You're talking about the Nostradamus effect.
Exactly. Nostradamus is the big. People go, oh, he's the blah, blah. Okay, yeah. Again, if you stand on one leg and hold your head at just the right angle and squint your eyes,
but when Bob Lazar goes,
you know,
this element exists, but nobody will come out and talk about this element existing. And
I know,
in 10 years,
and then that happened.
It proves exactly
the thing is
this element.
That you have to understand with Bob Lazar, especially in that situation, in that one particular situation, exactly.
And we're not talking about
is the fact you have to remember he worked for the government for decades.
He's a rocket scientist.
I know. And he worked in Area 51.
No, he didn't work in Area 51. He worked in the...
I thought he was at 51.
No, he wasn't at 51. He was at the other station that was north of there.
Okay.
It was part of 51, but it wasn't 51 proper.
But it was still one of those things where he had access to stuff that you and I never will. Okay? And so... yes, I get that. Again, you're going back to science on that. The
guy's a scientist.
I know, and that's one of those things with that.
He's a rocket scientist.
I know. So I'll give you that one. That makes perfect sense. Okay, but
you need more coffee.
Yes, some of his other stuff is just so far out there. I mean, again, we're not quite getting to Alex Jones levels of...
Okay, Alex Jones isn't a conspiracy theorist. I'm not sure that he is not a multidimensional being himself. That
Alex
guy,
Jones. See, the thing with Alex Jones, and I always love to hear him when he's on Rogan or somebody else.
Yeah.
Him or Tim Pool or any of the number of shows that will bring him on there. I always make sure and listen to it because I'm like, okay, I am going to thoroughly enjoy this for about a third of the time that he's actually on there, and then my head's going to start hurting, and I'm going to have to turn this off for a while.
You're talking about the guy's a nut job.
He is a complete whack job.
But this guy has done so much drugs.
Oh, I know.
And blow and everything. I'm not sure that he's not a multidimensional being himself and functioning on a completely different wavelength. I mean,
it's one of those things where he'll say something, and it's like, okay, that makes perfect sense. And then he'll turn around and be like, "Oh yeah," and then the Chinese have like these skin farms or and this and that. And it's like, what? Where did that come from?
Yeah, but then he'll say something completely crazy, completely out there.
I know.
And like 6 months later, it's like, well, this has come out in the news that this is happening, and he's like, "I told you so."
Well,
see, I told you so.
I heard someone recently say that the thing that he is really known for now about the whole they're turning the frogs gay, the thing is that what he said wasn't wrong. Okay, it was with the fact that these chemicals that were getting into the water sources were changing. Like the frogs were having a genetic change because of these chemicals, and it was one of those things where they were changing from male to female, type stuff or whatever it was. Yeah. So it's one of those things that if it's not Alex Jones screaming, "They're turning the frogs gay," blah, 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 if he's saying it in a normal voice and people start looking at the science, they're like, actually, he's not wrong. It's like, okay, but the fact that it's Alex Jones and he's being crazy Alex Jones in that clip, it's like, we just can't take this seriously.
You got to listen to what he says, and then you have to take into consideration the amount of coke and blow.
I have no doubt that he has fried his brain many, many times over.
I'm sure this guy has a regular ayahuasca.
Yeah, ayahuasca, not ayahuasca.
Sorry, ayahuasca. I'm not into drugs, so I don't know the correct pronunciation of all of it.
Okay, do you know about the Do you know about the Afghani giants?
I've heard mention of this.
I
don't know anything about it. Yeah.
Supposedly.
Yeah.
In 2002, 2003, whenever we went into Afghanistan. I guess it's 2002 when we went to Afghanistan. That special forces were going through this. We're going through the mountains, this mountain pass, and encountered a giant that came out of a cave.
Okay.
Like they're saying, 10 foot tall. It was humanoid, but wasn't human.
Yeah.
And that there was it was throwing rocks, and it was more caveman type, whatever. And that they wound up killing it.
Did it have one eye?
No, it wasn't Cyclops.
Okay, just checking.
At least I don't know. It could have that. I didn't.
Just checking.
I know, but type stuff, and that apparently there was supposed to be a whole community of them that lived in that, like the natives had told them lived in that area.
Okay.
And it was again one of those things where the higher up said, "Don't talk about it."
Gotcha.
I don't know.
Should we mention Siren Head at this point?
Siren Head.
Have you not heard about Siren Head?
Go ahead and tell me. I probably have.
Just
go ahead.
I don't know a whole lot about it, but evidently there's this giant humanoid thing that is the head is like a PA speaker array.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
And if it gets, it hunts you. If you hear it, it hunts you down and it kills you and blah blah blah.
It's again, we're getting a lot of urban legend stuff, with Bloody Mary and all that kind of stuff.
Slender Man,
which
was completely a creepypasta story that people have turned into an actual mythological creature.
Yeah, and then you have these two girls that decide they're gonna kill one of their friends and go live with the Slender Man in the woods. And I'm trying to think of someone. There are all kinds of governmental and especially in military conspiracy theories that are out there. We could spend all night talking about that.
I'll tell you one that's not a conspiracy theory is that your phone is actually listening to you, because when I pulled up Google, I hit the letter S and it immediately pulled up Siren Head. It was the first listing on Google.
Go. So
yeah,
that's
this is evidently was also created for a creepypasta type thing.
Yeah.
It's actually a character in urban legend designed by Canadian horror illustrator Trevor Henderson. It's a creepypasta, but all of a sudden there's all this found footage video out there.
Well, talking about the giants. I guess when the History Channel made its turn several years ago, when they went from talking about Hitler all the time to talking about aliens and
you talking about when they went from the History Channel to the Conspiracy Channel with some other stuff thrown.
Right.
Which one of my favorite shows in the History Channel is still Counting Cars.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
But it went. You start getting Ancient Aliens. You got You had Monster Quest, which they just brought back, which I love that show.
Well, you know how that started, though, don't you? Because they were all. The History Channel used to be nothing but World War II.
Oh, I know. For the most part, I know.
All that. And
they used to call it the Hitler Channel because it was everything was about the Nazis. I mean, it was
They did one short series show about Hitler and the occult, and it got such great ratings.
Well, they had always had a show that was called History's Mysteries that was on there, and then they did Haunted History, and they had they did some stuff like that, which okay, fine, I can give you that for the History Channel. Okay, they did one about Hitler and the occult. They did one about Nostradamus that took off really big, and that was as 2012 was approaching. All of a sudden, all of the vast majority of their programming went to all that stuff.
I'm still worried about something, though.
Okay,
because you mentioned 2012. I'm really hoping that this Aztec guy or whoever's writing his calendar wasn't dyslexic and actually meant 2021.
There you go. Who knows?
Because
actually, if it was dyslexic, it would be 2102.
Well, that's better. Maybe we'll be gone by then.
I don't plan on being around 2102. I don't know about you. I'll be 100 in a lot at that point. 128. I don't want to be 128 years old.
Unless they start coming out with biopics or something to where,
You ever read Gulliver's Travels?
Yeah.
Okay. Most people know like the Gulliver Mickey, and different like usually some pared down versions of it where he goes to Lilliput, and you have the little people, and then even I remember like there was a television movie when we were kids where he went to the Land of the Giants. Also, I can't remember the name of it, but in the book, one of the places he went to where it was one of these things where people lived forever. But once they reached like 120 years old, they were basically packed away in cold storage because their bodies had deteriorated so much. They were going to live forever, but they were not going to live as a normal human being any longer. And so they were just like, okay, you reached this age, so now here we go. We put you over here with the rest of them, and this is where you're going to be for the rest of your eternity. And it's like, that's no way to live. It's
like, go ahead and just
exactly.
Two in the back of the head, please.
That's another. There are people who talk about that humans by design are supposed to live to be like 125 years old or something like that. And I'm like, my grandmother died at 98. Okay, and up until the last, her mind started going a couple years out, like about 3 years before. When she was about 95. But she never really slowed down until the last 6 months of her life.
Sure.
So it was one of those things that I watched her, unlike all of her friends who died, or wasted away, that kind of stuff. She just went until she just couldn't anymore. And then after she slowed down, she was gone within a few months, I'm fine with that. It's like I've said that many times. Like, if I can at 80 years old, I could be as cognitive and have as much energy as she did. That'd be awesome. Yeah. But the thing is that something breaks down eventually. It's either your body or it's your mind. It's one of the two. Yeah. Or both. Sometimes it's both of them. And so I don't know the whole. I don't want to live forever.
Quote Indiana Jones. It's not the time. It's the mileage.
Exactly. And so I'm just like, I don't know. Oh, there's another biblical conspiracy theory of sorts. The mark of Cain.
Okay, you're talking about vampires at this point.
Not necessarily. Okay, so there's some weird stuff that's going on here. Okay, so Adam and Eve were created. There is the Jewish mythology of Lilith.
Well, you're getting over into Kabbalah. And all that stuff
but that's you're Yeah, Lilith was supposedly the first woman created, and she wanted to be equal. She didn't want to be she didn't want to be subservient to the man, and so she left, or she was kicked out of the Garden of Eden. And a lot of people say that she became a succubus or something. It was kind of one of those things that she became an evil spirit, basically. A boogeyman, or boogie woman, I guess.
Or if you go with current mythology, the first vampire.
That too. Yeah. Well, there's that, but there's also some people that claim that Cain was the first vampire. Okay. Because after he killed Abel, he was cursed to walk the earth, but there was a mark that was put on him to where other people wouldn't kill him for murder, because he supposedly committed the first murder. Okay. Now, one of the theories or tales or whatever is the fact that the myths, there you go,
legend,
that mark that was put on him meant that he would never die, and that he's still walking the earth now. Okay. That's, it's kind of like the
so we think vampires could be real at this point.
I don't know that it's necessarily. I don't know that it's. But see, that's the whole thing. Is it with that rather than being like vampiric? It's just more of you're cursed to walk the earth the rest of each, for all time because you committed this murder, or whatever. There was also another Christian myth, is that the soldier that struck Jesus when he was walking to Calvary was cursed to walk the earth for all eternity.
Okay, so there's two of them walking around.
Supposedly, yeah. Now, here's the thing that's really interesting, though. So you got Adam and Eve, and they have two sons. Yeah. Cain and Abel. Okay. So, this whole thing, they're kicked out of the garden, okay, and then they have the kids, okay. So, this whole thing happened where Cain killed his brother because, he didn't.
Jealousy.
It was jealousy. He also didn't do what he was supposed to do in the eyes of God, and so therefore, Abel had more favor with God, that kind of stuff. So he kills him out of jealousy.
Yeah.
And then that kind of stuff. So, but they say in the next verse, the next few verses, or something like that he went to another city and started a family. Basically.
Well, okay.
And so it's like, whoa, where did that other city come from?
In Jewish tradition, there was a sanctuary city that if you killed somebody...
Right, that's part of their... Okay, but you see what I'm saying here?
Yeah,
You've got
there was
4 people walking the earth.
And there was a city.
And all of a sudden there's a city with women that he could marry... or with a woman that he could marry to start a family. We do know in the Bible again, Seth was the next, the next son anyway that was born, and I think it does go on to talk about how they had multiple kids. Of course they lived hundreds of years supposedly. My dad, who really dove into all that, and through Genesis at one point, kind of putting timelines together and everything, said that Adam died while Noah was building the ark. Because it wasn't one of those things that Noah built the ark in a week or whatever. He built it over a lot of years.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things that, you get into. And I think that they actually, in Genesis, it actually says how many years that Adam lived, and all that kind of stuff. Well, Methuselah was alive during that time period. And I don't know. You have to go and look all that stuff up. Genesis is a very interesting book. Just in all these stories that we've heard over the years of okay, where did this fit? Because the book of Job happens before the flood. That story does. Now, its placement in the Bible is much further on, but it is a story that happens before the flood. And so, it's yeah. So I know. Again,
go back and start studying
I know. It's of course, he also talks about the behemoth and Leviathan and these, what are they? Are they?
Adam lived
dinosaur?
130 years. He was 130 years old when he fathered a son in his own likeness. That's when he had Seth.
Okay, so this.
Adam apparently lived 930 years, and then he died. So the man was nearly 1,000 years old.
That's what it says. The Methuselah was actually older than that.
Evidently, Seth lived 105. His son lived 807. No, I take it back. Seth had his first kid at 105. And he died when he was 912.
Right.
His son was 905. His kid was 910.
And all this had to be pre-flood, because
Enoch,
by the story of the flood, everyone except for Noah and his family were wiped out.
Enoch had Methuselah when he was 300. And he lived 365 years.
What about Methuselah, though?
Methuselah
was 900 and...
had his first kid at 187, and he died at 969.
Right. He's supposedly the oldest person ever lived.
Yeah. His kid was Lamech. Lamech had Noah.
Actually, there's something in there that's incorrect. Enoch
What about Enoch?
Enoch didn't die.
Did I say he died?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't mean to say he died. It actually says here that he walked with God and he was not.
Right.
For God took him.
Right.
Yeah.
That's there are two people in the Bible that
Elijah,
yeah, and Enoch were both like they didn't die.
Yeah, God just took
God
him.
just like, hey, come with me.
Yeah.
This is so yeah, that's that's what some people who people have said would be the two prophets that come back in the end times. And who knows? That's hey, you want to get into some conspiracy theories? We could get into Revelation.
Let's not go there.
Yeah, no, that's really getting into. What is some like? All right, let's get away from the supernatural conspiracy theories. Okay, what is some? Everybody's got their favorites. Okay, of the conspiracy theories. Some people think that you've got the loose change guys who believe that 9/11 was an inside job, and you've got
I like the ones that Elvis and Jim Morrison aren't dead. They're actually just hanging out in Texas.
Yeah, well, thing is that like Elvis would be.
The thing about it is that
some odd years old right
Texas
now.
is big enough that it might be true.
What was that movie? Was it Bubba Hotep or whatever it was?
I watched that once. I don't remember much about it. I feel like I should go back and watch it again.
Here's a good conspiracy theory.
Sure.
Or a good conspiracy question, I guess you say. Who killed Kennedy? Not Bobby. JFK. Who killed? Because those are two different things.
Yeah.
Who killed JFK? Who do you think it was?
I don't really have a thought on it because we know what we've been told.
Right.
Lone
gunman.
We've seen.
It was what's his name?
Oswald.
Yeah, Oswald.
And it's actually been proved that somebody with his experience with that gun could do it with that speed. Mm-hmm. The problem is that if you watch the film and you know where the book repository was,
if you watch the ballistics of how he reacts,
it's not right for where he was at and all that.
Right.
And ballistics is a type of science.
Mm-hmm. And then there was the whole magic bullet with the Warren Commission, and that's the whole thing. Oh, look, here's the bullet. Okay, so you're saying that this passed through his head and into what was the governor's name?
Untouched.
And went into his arm and came out, and there was nothing wrong with the bullet whatsoever.
It was unmarked. It was pristine.
Connolly. Connolly, that's his name, Connolly.
Which is not possible.
Right.
It's not
And they
possible.
found it laying on the gurney.
Yeah, no.
It's like, that doesn't...
Anybody who has handled firearms and has shot firearms knows what an impossibility that is.
Right.
Because at that speed, if it even barely strikes something, it's going to mark it.
Right.
I mean, the barrel grooving itself is going to mark, and you don't make a shot at that distance with a smooth bore barrel and have it be accurate. Mm-hmm. It's not possible.
Mm-hmm. Now, again, you get into that. There's the theories that it was Cuba, that it was communist, because that whole thing, the Bay of Pigs, had gone down, and there's that.
You've got everything from the federal government did it.
There's
to
the CIA
Cubans
did it.
The CIA did it. To the mob did it.
There's there was Russians did it. I mean, there are all kinds of
Russians
by proxy through the Cubans. I know.
I mean. That's another theory is because they supposedly the Russians set Oswald up as a patsy.
Right,
but
because he had lived in Moscow for...
Well, no, he was recruited.
Right, he was recruited by the
KGB,
right.
Yeah, and spent time in Moscow.
Renounced his American citizenship.
I mean, he was a communist through and through.
Right. Right.
But you're never going to get the actual truth out of it.
Personally, I think it was the CIA, honestly. And here's the reason why. And I'll give you mine. And this is from just looking at history, what was going on at the time. Okay?
Yeah.
We had been in Vietnam for since the early 50s.
Yeah.
Okay. We had not officially been in Vietnam. The CIA went there and were basically trying to train the South Vietnamese to fight that war, but it wasn't working. And because the Viet Cong was just like...
Well, here's the thing. That whole conflict could have been completely avoided if the U.S. government had actually had a meeting with Ho Chi Minh.
Right.
Back at the end of World War II.
Right. Oh, there's all kinds of stuff. Yeah, I mean, do we get some history of like where everything got screwed up? We can go back to the end of World War I, to the Treaty of Versailles.
Yeah.
I mean, that is just, oh man, that's where everything really got started. Actually, you go back even further than that, but we're not going to.
Yeah.
We're just talking about Vietnam. So here, this is my why I think it happened, who did it, and why. Okay.
All right.
So all of that is starting to escalate. We're in the early 60s. You know, it was November of 63 when Kennedy was killed.
Yeah.
So all of that is starting to escalate. We had already gone through the Cuban Missile Crisis. You know, this was already this big thing. And
what wasn't his name? It wasn't Ho Chi Minh. Who,
yeah, you're talking about
who was the leader?
Yeah, it was Ho Chi Minh, because of the Ho Chi Minh Trail. It's
it doesn't feel right. Something about that doesn't feel right. My history is off because I'm tired right now.
Anyway, so it's one of those things that, you know, so the CIA is saying this isn't working, so we're probably going to need to start bringing troops in here. Okay, the French are already pulling out because they were like, we cannot win this thing. We cannot do this. The military-industrial complex, the military in general, is looking at this going, this is another proxy war just like Korea. We cannot afford to see another country fall to communism. We do have this thing called the Truman Doctrine that we can go in just like we did in Korea, you know, to stop the spread of communism, you know, and all this kind of stuff. And Kennedy wouldn't sign off on it because he's like, I know. He was a World War II vet, you know. It's one of those things. He's like, this is not. We just came through this whole thing with Cuba that thankfully did not escalate. We don't want to get into a proxy war with the Russians, with the USSR. I'm not going to do this.
Well, no, at that point, it wasn't the Russians. It was the Chinese.
Well,
the Chinese.
That's true, but
the Chinese were the
communism,
ones,
so it's
communism, but Chinese communism, because because when
it's true, because that's when you're getting into a Mao Zedong.
When the Vietnamese leadership didn't get the support from the U.S. that they were looking for. At the end of World War II, he was like, okay, well, they don't want to help us. So he went to China.
Right.
And China went, oh, absolutely, we'll supply you and train you and help you. You just have to adopt communism.
Right. So Kennedy's not doing this. Like, he's not going along.
Yeah.
And we got to do something. And I honestly believe that the CIA did it there. Now, here's where we're getting a complete conspiracy theory. There has been a story that's been told for a long time in theorists, you know, in conspiracy circles and stuff like that.
Sure.
Lyndon Johnson, when asked in 1960, whenever he accepted the nomination to be vice president, running with Kennedy, because he had aspirations to be president.
Yeah.
He was asked in an interview, why did you take this vice presidential job? Why did you take this, you know, rather than running for president yourself? And he said, well, you know, at that point, he said, there's been 5 presidents who have died in office, and so I'm really just, all I got to do. Basically, he said, there have been 5 presidents who have died in office one way or another, and if this works out okay, then if this works out the same way, then I'll be president. Now, he said it as a joke.
Quote, air quotes.
As a joke. Here's the thing, though. There is a
joke.
Conspiracy theory, and this is all conspiracy theory, but there is a story that's gone around for years.
Johnson had him killed so he could be president?
He didn't have him killed, but basically the people who killed him, the CIA, the military, basically, you know, the complex, you know, that came in, went to Johnson and said, look, something's getting ready to go down in Dallas. What we need to know from you is whether or not you're going to support this war in Vietnam. If you do, you can be president. And he said, I'll give you the war that you want. Supposedly.
Okay.
And if you look at how Johnson approached Vietnam, It was full speed ahead. We're going to escalate this as fast and as hard as we can.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's one of those things people look at Lyndon Johnson and, you know, that all they talk about is like, oh, he was such a great, you know, because he led this country after, you know, this horrible thing that happened and, you know, the civil rights and, you know, this and that and everything like that. Okay, take those things off the table. Horrible president. Horrible president.
Yeah.
I mean, terrible president. And just, I mean, oh my goodness. And it's, and, you know, and it's one of those things that, you know, I think the real turning point for this country was in November of 63 when JFK was assassinated. That is the line of demarcation of what America is going to be to what America is now.
Okay.
That goes, it was that whole, it splintered at that point.
You think that was the...
I think that was the thing, honestly. And it just, if you talk to people, you know, like my parents, you know, were both young teenagers when it happened. You know, my mom was 10, dad was 12, you know, so I guess they weren't even teenagers yet, you know. And it's one of those things that is a very, like, that generation, like that, you know, that's the whole, you know, you could literally, like, that became a catchphrase. And, you know, where were you when Kennedy was killed? You know,
no,
that kind of stuff. You know, I mean, it's
that was a huge
thing,
yeah.
You know. And
I think my mom was in college.
Yeah, you know, so but it's one of those things. I mean, it really did, and it was a, how did this happen? You know, and he wasn't the first person killed in office. You know, I mean, because you know you had Lincoln, and you also had what was the other one? Is it McKinley?
I'm totally blanking.
It's the way that Teddy Roosevelt became president. I can't remember his name.
I'm drawing.
We had a couple of presidents who were assassinated prior to him.
Yeah.
You know, we had a couple other ones that died in office that weren't assassinated. You know, there was nothing nefarious about it that we know of. But it was just still one of those things where those are big things. You know, that's a big thing. It's bad enough to have a leader die in office for whatever reason, but to have them killed in office, that's a whole other thing, because that's not just an attack on that leader, that's an attack on the entire country. And so,
well, I mean, you had the big two.
Mm-hmm.
For the longest time is where were you when Kennedy was killed,
mm-hmm.
and then in our lifetime is where were you
when 9/11
happened.
Right.
So
yeah, and you know, it's, you know, we're coming up on the 20th anniversary of that here in just a couple of months as we're recording this.
Yeah.
And first off, it doesn't seem like it's been 20 years.
No.
But it's also one of those things, like, I remember my grandparents talking about when Pearl Harbor happened.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
Where they were when they heard about it. You know, radio, obviously, because it was free television for the most part. I mean, television was around at this point, but it wasn't a big thing. But it was radio. Radio was huge, you know, and so it was one of those things everybody, I heard it on the radio, or somebody came over and said, hey, did you hear what happened, you know, and, you know, that kind of stuff.
Turn the radio on.
Exactly, you know, and everybody kind of gathered around the radio for,
you
know, the whole rest of the day. And the next day when Roosevelt gave his speech, you know, the day that will live in infamy speech, you know, and Congress, you know, basically wanted to declare war on Japan.
You know that, and not the year, but the day is actually my mother-in-law's birthday.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
One of my cousins is December 7th. But it's one of those things that, like, 9/11 was like that same thing with us, you know, where it's like, crap. I know exactly where I can take you to the exact. Well, the place has changed since it's not the same place that it was then, but I can take you to the exact place where I was when I saw that it happened, and I can take you to the exact place where I stood and listened to the radio because I was at work and we didn't have a television. And I can take you to the exact place and say, this is where I stood for 2 hours and listened to the radio and heard it all go down live. I
actually saw the second plane hit the building.
Oh, yeah?
I was actually... my mother is about to sell the place that I was standing. But I was getting ready for work, and I was listening to Rick and Bubba. And they had just been in one of the World Trade Centers because there was a radio station, studio. And they had broadcast, I think, the week before. And they were watching the TV there in the studio, and they were like, "Oh, hey, breaking news! It looks like a plane has hit one of the World Trade."
Right.
And at that point, you didn't, you're thinking passenger plane.
Yeah, I know exactly.
And then they're like, and then they get to examining it and realizing how big the hole is and how much smoke's coming in. They're like
747. Yeah,
they were like, and I remember they said, I realize we're a radio show and we're here for ratings because that's how we sell advertising. It's how we get paid. But you need to go turn your TV. If you're listening to this, go turn your TV on right now.
Right.
And I walked down the hall to my bedroom and turned the TV on. And just as the TV got full brightness, second plane went in the second tower.
No.
That's...
Yeah, I know. And it's just... And it's one of those things that there will be something else later that is a line of demarcation for, unfortunately.
I kind of hope it's not in my lifetime.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. It's it's kind of, for us a lot, until 9/11, it was the Challenger.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was a big thing. Yeah. The Challenger exploded, I wasn't at school that day, so I wasn't watching it when it happened. I stayed home from school.
Oh, they'd pulled all of us into the cafeteria because it was right at lunchtime.
Yeah.
And we're all eating lunch and watching the Challenger take up, and all of a sudden it explodes, and all of a sudden one of the teachers runs up and turns the TV.
Television. I know. See, that's the whole thing. I was homesick, and I was watching television, and I was flipping through the channels, and CNN at the time, they were still relatively new. I think they were about 6 years old at that point. They came on like 80 or 81.
Well, you had headline news first.
Well, but what I'm saying is that by this point we had CNN, which was 24 hours, and it was like that's all they were doing all the entire day. You know? And it was just like, what happened? No, what? And, that there's a lot of stuff around that. They say, like, people who did the who went and examined the wreckage, they went and they went and they found all the wreckage. Yeah. Say that the astronauts survived the explosion, but they didn't survive the impact in the ocean.
Oh. Yeah.
And because they found the cockpit whole.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And but yeah, it was they survived the explosion, but what they say from the forensics is that it hundreds of miles an hour, whatever, that
terminal
they were coming
velocity,
off of that, it just they hit the water, and that was it. Yeah. And so I mean, it's we've really gone on a dark path down the end of this. Wow, we started off talking about Bigfoot, and now we're talking about the Challenger explosion, and and 9/11 and the Kennedy, and
this I didn't see this coming at all.
You never do.
No one expects the Spanish Inquisition.
I was going that same place. I was going that same place, man. That's
wow.
Yeah, so I mean, it's...
We probably ought to let it go at this point.
Well, okay, here's another, and this will really, like, stir some stuff up.
Oh, boy.
The election of 1960. It was, Richard Nixon had been the vice president under Eisenhower. Yeah. He was running for president. Kennedy was this young upstart. He had been a senator, or he was a representative?
I think he was senator.
Yeah. And so, but it was one of those things that, of course the Kennedys, they were well known,
because
Joe Kennedy was a bootlegger, I know.
And mobster.
And very mobbed up, apparently.
Very connected.
But it's one of those things that, Mayor Daley in Chicago.
Also very connected.
Yes. Kept the polls open as long as he needed to get that win. Something that's kind of lost to history is that when it went to the Electoral College, because Hawaii was a new state at that point, like few years, something like that.
Yeah.
There were 2 sets of electors that were sent from Hawaii because they weren't confident in the count, basically, is what it came down to.
Okay.
And ultimately what it came to, and that Hawaii was kind of even though they only have 2 electors or something like that, it was still one of those things where it's like, this can throw the election one way or the other.
Sure.
And Richard Nixon, as the vice president, who was also the one that has to count the electoral votes and everything, could have, rather than he basically could have given himself the election at that point. And he said, and also the fact that it was such a close election that it was well into the night before, early morning hours before they had they could call it, it was the closest to that point. It was the closest race in U.S. history. And it was one of those things that people around him were trying to get him to do a recount. They were like, no, we think there are enough anomalies, especially in Illinois, around Chicago, that we could get this overturned.
Anomalies?
Yeah, I know.
Irregularities in Illinois?
No, I'm sure no one who was deceased voted. I'm sure no one's cat voted. I'm sure that no one voted 4 or 5 times. We all know that Daley was corrupt as everything.
Somebody who has lived in Illinois.
I know. So anyway, but it was one of those things that Richard Nixon, when asked about the recount, said, no, it's more important that we not drag this out for the country. And then when it came down to counting the electoral votes in January of 1961, rather than, and people around him again were saying, this could be yours if you count those alternate votes, those alternate electors that are coming out of Hawaii. And he said, no, it's better for the country to not have it in this way or whatever. And so ultimately it was Richard Nixon who made sure that Kennedy became president in 1960. Now, it's one of those things that up to that point
so here's a new conspiracy.
Here you go. Here's the thing.
Nixon had Kennedy killed.
Well, here's the thing. From 1860 until from 1860 to 1960.
Yeah.
Okay. Every president who was elected in a year that ended in 0 died in office.
That's interesting.
The first one that didn't die in office was Ronald Reagan. However, he was shot 4 months into his presidency and almost died.
Yeah.
He was the one that broke the curse, basically. But
there's really great footage of
dude.
He's at a convention, he's giving a speech, and a balloon pops.
It missed me. Yeah,
and,
I know.
And he didn't even break stride. He goes, you missed me. And kept going right on with his speech. That guy was...
Say what you will about Ronald Reagan, okay? I'll admit he had his faults. He did some things wrong, okay?
Yeah. That guy was a true cowboy with some stones.
He got shot, he wasn't even aware that he was shot to begin with. It was one of those things that they got him into the limo, you know, and this point Brady had been shot through the head. His bodyguard, one of the Secret Service guys. Yeah. Have you ever gone back and watched the with him lifting? He gets shot point blank in the abdomen, and he lifts about 8 inches off the ground. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. You go back and watch it, and it's like when Hinckley shoots him, he shoots him so close that it lifts him off the ground, or he jumps. So he comes up off the ground. You can see his feet come up off the ground when he gets shot. But he threw Reagan in the back of that limo even after getting shot, and one of the other Secret Servicemen jumped on top of him and they took off. Yeah. Okay. It wasn't until they got in the limo that Reagan was like, "Man," he's like, "I think I broke my rib." In all this, and then all of a sudden they saw the blood, and they're like, "Hospital now, go, 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 go!" Yeah, and they got him into emergency surgery, And that's when they were like, oh, this is a lot worse than what we think it is. Okay, so he recovers a couple weeks later, kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And this is Ronald Reagan. Okay, here's the thing. They get him to the hospital. He gets out of the car being shot and walks into the hospital. And they put him on a gurney, and they're like, okay, get him in. We got it. This is what's going on, Reagan also, because the doctor who performed the surgery, whenever he rolled in, they were like, he was asking before they put him under. It's like, are you okay, Mr. President? He's like, yeah. He goes, I only have one question. He's like, what? He goes, I hope that you're all Republicans. And the doctor said, today, Mr. President, we're all Republicans. It's like, so it's one of those things that like they did the surgery. He recovers after a couple of weeks, and he's getting ready to leave the hospital, and the nurse comes up and with the wheelchair because hospital and he's like, what are you doing? And she's like, it's hospital policy. That we have to carry you out in a wheelchair. He goes, I walked into this hospital. I'm walking out of it.
Yeah, like I said.
And that's the thing. When you see Reagan leave the hospital, he is on his feet. He walks out and waves to everybody, gives that big smile that he had, and got in the back and went straight to the White House.
Like I said, that guy was a real cowboy with some stones.
He was. He absolutely. There was. Reagan was no nonsense. Again, like I said, he had his problems. I could go down a handful of things off the top of my head that I'm like, he screwed up here, he screwed up here, he screwed up here.
I mean, everybody remembers Iran-Contra and all that.
The AIDS thing. I mean, that was... we ain't got to worry about that. That's, as they put it, that's a gay thing. We ain't got to worry about it. Yep. And by not jumping on it up front, we have the problem that we have, that we still have 40 years later. Yeah. And as well as some other stuff. I mean,
yet another thing that Fauci screwed up.
You want to get some conspiracy theories about that? Because there are some.
No, we'll leave that. I'll leave that the way it is. But
it was his firm that was doing the research on that. So
all I'm going to say is he was in charge and was giving.
Fauci was the one that came up with AZT. It killed a bunch of people.
Yeah. Because it was a failed cancer drug.
It was, and so hey, we're going to use this on AIDS, and then it killed some people. So it's like, it killed people treating them for cancer. It killed people treating them for AIDS.
Yeah.
Hey, let's not do this anymore, okay?
So,
and that's not even a conspiracy. That's
actual
fact and
fact and truth. So that's all I'm going to go.
Yeah,
with that
well, that's
one,
what I'll go there. But yeah, there's always. I mean, you can go down all kinds. You get into Illuminati. You get into. Freemasons. You can get into whatever it is.
You can't get into the Freemasons.
You can get into the.
I know enough Freemasons to know that the theories on that's just absolute garbage.
Well, Pastor Dave's a Mason.
But you've got the Illuminati. You've got the lizard people.
No, what is
you've
it?
Got the Hollow Earth theory.
What is the Bohemian Grove? Skull and Bones. I mean,
Skull and Bones is.
Yeah, I know. There are so many presidents and senators and judges and everything that were all members of Yale Skull and Bones.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, this is...
Yeah.
Wow, that's scary.
And of all the crap that, we talk, all the crap we talk about Alex Jones, I mean, the guy got in there with a video camera in Bohemian Grove, and you're like, what the heck?
I know the owl and everything. It's just like, it's crazy. So...
Yeah.
Anyway, so we speaking of crazy, we really went through the crazy tonight.
makes you wonder what's real and what's not.
It don't bother me.
I'm not gonna worry about it. We're all living in a simulation anyway.
Hey, Elon Musk seems to think that we are, so it's...
How do you like how Elon Musk has pretty much killed cryptocurrency within like a week?
He killed Dogecoin, and then he killed Bitcoin. And Ethereum is starting to tank also. Yeah. Now, here's another conspiracy on that, though.
That one little phrase. Yeah, it's a hustle.
Yeah. Here's the thing, is that there's a conspiracy theory there as well.
Okay.
That the reason that he has done that is so basically all the people who have put a bunch of money into it and caused these prices to go up all of a sudden sell off and the prices go down, and then his rich buddies can come in and buy up all of the stuff at a lower price. It's a conspiracy theory. You
Yeah.
know, it's and that's not none of these are my. The only
Is he
thing
about
here,
to GameStop the crypto
knows?
theory?
The only
cryptocurrency
one of these things
community?
that we talked about tonight that I'm here that I put my own. This is what I believe. Besides the fact that I did say if we
was
woke
the
up,
JFK
was the JFK.
assassination.
That's what I believe. Now along with that, Bill Hicks had a bit about that.
Yeah.
About hey every president that comes in on the first day. CIA brings him in and sits him down and shows him a different angle of the Kennedy assassination you've never seen before. Said, okay, these are going to be your policies the next 4 years. So, yeah.
There's that conspiracy theory that Alex Jones is actually Bill Hicks.
I have not heard that one.
Have you not heard that one?
No, that's dude, Bill Hicks.
I've heard that.
I love Bill Hicks. Okay, it's so funny that like Bill Hicks and George Carlin, those two guys who were like so subversive and so like counterculture and so all this stuff like during their lifetimes that you fast forward all these years later and you're like, God bless, they were right about so much shit. It's not even funny.
I can't believe you haven't heard this thing that
No,
Alex Jones is actually Bill Hicks and
I haven't
something's
heard that
happening.
one,
Yeah,
no.
I've heard
There's all kinds of. What was it? There was who was it that they said was there was somebody the people were claiming was actually Kurt Cobain. Shoot, I can't remember. It was another musician that they were like, no, he actually is Kurt Cobain, or it was Rivers Cuomo. That's who it was.
What?
People were claiming that Rivers Cuomo was actually Kurt Cobain. I'm like,
I haven't even heard that.
Yeah,
one.
that was a whole
like
weird thing.
that facial structure isn't even
And also
close.
the fact that Cobain died, like he died in early '94, and that first Weezer album was dropped like later that year.
Yeah,
and it just there's a whole bunch of weird.
Well,
all kinds of crazy.
The
stuff.
whole thing about Ted Cruz being a time traveler, and people keep
what
finding.
Was it? But they said that he was the Zodiac killer. That was.
Oh
one of the things.
The Zodiac killer and a time traveler.
Yeah, there's been
because
a whole bunch of those.
they keep finding pictures like further and further back where the picture looks just like Ted Cruz.
Was it Jamie Foxx? Is the one that like they keep finding these pictures like these older people like from like 100 years ago.
Yeah,
and it's like that's Jamie Foxx, or maybe it was Kanye. It was some I can't. Maybe it was Kanye.
Well,
that sounds bad because they all sound like.
You racist.
I know exactly.
You're a racist.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is.
But no, there's like a bunch of famous people where they keep finding like 100-year-old pictures of them. It's like Ted Cruz and Jamie Foxx.
Keanu Reeves.
Keanu Reeves and. I think we're going back. I'm going to go back to the Mark of Cain and say they're all vampires, and it's the reason you keep seeing their pictures show up.
Except for the fact we keep seeing them in daylight. So, of course, the whole thing with that wasn't a thing until the movie Nosferatu came out.
Yeah.
in the 1930s. That was when that part of the legend was added. Oh, sunlight kills them. That was never there before.
If you go back to the old Romanian legends,
they walked on the day just the same way.
Yeah,
I know. So there's
nighttime,
a whole bunch of that
daytime.
stuff. There's a whole bunch.
The
of
only
that
difference was that they lived off of blood.
Right. What do you think? Do you think it was tuberculosis that was the kind of started that legend?
No, the legends actually go way further than that.
Really? But there was something. Well, there was some disease that they talked about that they think started the legends on that because of the way that. But the way that it affects the blood, like that
there's a certain disease that.
Was it not tuberculosis?
It's not tuberculosis. There's actually a disease that people have that if you get out into the sun, it actually causes your blood to boil.
Right. And it also makes your skin really sensitive to sunlight and your eyes and all that kind of stuff.
Right. I forget what the name of it is, but it deals direct. It's a bloodborne disease.
Right.
And at one point, I think people were actually drinking other people's blood to try to cool their own. But that disease, they think that disease may be where some of those legends stemmed from.
I knew that there was some kind of disease.
I actually have a academic folklore study of
So you should know about this stuff.
vampires and vampirism. I haven't read the book in a while.
You should be able to pull this off the top of your head. I pulled all this other stuff off the top of my head. Why can't you do it?
Because I'm kind of like what was the daughter from Married with Children?
Kelly Bundy.
Kelly Bundy.
You can only remember so much. Yeah, exactly. In order for her to be able to remember this, she has to forget how to do something over here.
Yeah, that's me. I'm a moron, and I admit it. Yeah.
It's funny because, like, I can sit here for almost 2 hours and pull all this stuff off the top of my head, but then I'll forget that, like, oh, yeah, I got to pay my bills tomorrow. Or whatever it is. You know, it's like I've said that many times. Like, yeah, I can pull all this just crazy stuff out of my head and, like, with almost pinpoint accuracy, but then I'll forget that, like, oh, I need to go put gas in my car, or I need to do this, or I need to do that, or I need to whatever.
I can't keep any of this stuff that I need to know in my head. But you take me to a trivia night, and usually I do pretty good. It's.
I haven't done trivia in a long time.
I don't
think I've done. Well, I take that back. I did trivia last summer, and we killed. It would be fun
to go do trivia at some point.
It's funny that I found that, like, I'm better at trivia after I got sober. I can remember stuff so much easier.
You're not killing brain cells.
Yeah. Well, see, okay, here's my conspiracy theory about that. I thought at the time that I was actually doing myself a favor, because you have to remember that in nature, the weakest of the species die off first. So if I'm killing brain cells, I'm killing off the ones that obviously that those synapses are not firing at the same level as the rest of them. So therefore, I'm actually making myself smarter by getting rid of that dead weight.
That's the smartest dumb thing I've ever heard in my life.
And on that note, thank you once again for...
That's Alan Smith, the smartest dumb person I know.
And that's Big Dave, the...
Yeah, you got nothing.
That. So it's that's Big Dave that can't remember anything.
Yeah. Swiss cheese memory. Which makes me wonder when I'm going to do my next quantum leap.
There you go.
Is
that your conspiracy theory?
Yeah, that's the reason I can't ever remember anything. Why I have Swiss cheese memory.
Why haven't they brought that show back in some capacity?
Because you can't touch perfection.
They really should have. That ending wasn't perfection.
No, the ending wasn't perfection, but the show overall was a great show.
That's a great show, you know. And yeah, but that's been one that I've actually wondered over. It's like, that would be perfect. And I'm sure Scott Bakula would come back, you know, to play that character, because he loved that character, Sam Beckett, you know.
Oh, and you could tie that in and pass that off to somebody else.
Absolutely, yeah. You know, because I know at one point in the later seasons there was another time traveler.
Yeah,
that was.
I don't think it was as good though.
Yeah, well, I mean, but he was kind of a nemesis in some ways, you know. So I don't know, just the way that they ended that, where it's just like, oh yeah, and Dr. Sam Beckett was never seen again.
Yeah.
That's the whole Poochie thing. And later that day, Poochie died. His what was it? On the way back to his home world, the spaceship blew up and Poochie was killed.
Yeah.
Why would you do that? Especially to Sam Beckett, after you put, was it 6 or 7 seasons into it or something like that? Why would you do that? And it was such a good show.
Somebody got lazy,
I guess. Anyway. So we did another Around the Horn today.
Yeah.
All the way around the world and back. I hope you guys enjoyed this. We may have another crazy conspiracy down.
And boy, am I tired.
You know what's really funny is that we've been doing this for, at this point, almost an hour and 50 minutes. No. And we sat down with nothing. And we have not had a lag in this the entire time. So if anybody was ever wondering, I can bullshit better than anybody else in the entire fucking world.
Not exactly the way I would have put that, but it's true.
Oh, you know something? Here's a let's circle back around to something here real quick, okay?
Okay, Jim.
What I was getting at earlier, the joke that you're talking about me being full of it, and I was talking about one of my favorite, that Harry Anderson book.
Yeah.
This is what I'm going to leave you with. This is something that I took very personally at the time when I read it.
Okay.
And I still feel that it applies as well. Mm-hmm. In the book, he was talking about his close friends and family, you know, with him being a magician and, you know, doing all this, you know, this con game and, you know, and all this kind of stuff that he knew, you know, that kind of stuff, that one of his really good friends one time told him, said, Harry, it's not that you're full of it, it's you're full of so many different kinds of it.
That is absolutely true about you. And I guarantee there's some kinds in there that nobody else has discovered yet.
Not yet. Hey, I gotta have surprises, man. If I show you all my tricks up front, it's not fun later.
No, I'm pretty sure you've shown me all the tricks at this point. Pretty sure.
And some that you'll never unsee. So.
Yeah, thanks for that. Therapy hasn't been cheap, let me tell you.
This is what happens when you're my friend. You are subjected to all of me.
Sometimes literally.
We had that conversation earlier. So, anyway.
Who are you?
I am Alan Smith.
I'm the other guy, Big Dave.
And we will see you next time with not nearly as long of an episode and a lot more concise.
We can hope anyway. See ya!